So, Ranette,
Mhm.
let's talk about how we know each other.
How do we know each other?
How do we know each other? We used to work together,
I was
girl.
working this out. Is it about 6 years ago?
2017. So that is, my
2017.
maths is
Yeah,
dreadful.
4 miles is 7 years. 7
Is that
years-ish.
7 years?
7 years. Yeah,
Damn,
yeah,
girl.
yeah.
I
I
remember when I was
remember.
a baby
I
girl.
remember when you came in the office and I was all excited. I think I was overexcited.
Girl,
I was like, I don't know why.
I was like, who is this nosy girl?
I was so nosy.
She came up to me.
I don't know how I worked out that you were singing, but the moment that I knew you were singing, I was like, oh, I actually think I started off by saying, you don't need to worry about law. You could do this, you could do that. Like I was trying to put you into all these different categories and saying, where your world could look like, what your career and yeah, I was really happy. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just think you had a really nice positive energy. You just kind of engaged people.
No, and obviously once I got to know you, I was just like, oh my gosh, like she's like really cool. Like she's like basically like, no, seriously, I was like, you're really cool. Obviously I've gotten to know you more and like you're an inspiration. Like you're so inspirational. But yeah, like working where we work together, um, that was my first introduction into law, but it was also my first introduction into like a proper family environment at work. I never had that.
True.
I've never worked with so much Black people before. All my previous jobs, because
Yeah.
before I came to Hackney, I was in like the Daily Mail so it's just like
Definitely.
loads of white people. So like
I think that's what I was trying to reassure you of because I think maybe I was scaring you because I think I so wanted you to feel like this isn't like your regular place.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm just here to kind of work. Like, I'm cool. I'm like, no, today I need to let you know you can actually be yourself.
Literally.
Because I felt like anyone who came through the door
Yeah.
and I'm not saying we weren't serious and professional and corporate.
Yeah.
But we're used to a certain clinical environment where you put there's a code switch.
Yeah.
You put on a front,
Yeah.
and you do your job. Whereas we got our work done, but we were also very much within ourselves. We were very much ourselves. We could talk to whoever.
Yeah.
We could approach whoever's desk. There was no sense of, there was a respect, but not a hierarchy.
Yeah.
I felt like that. And I wanted you to get that as soon as you got through the door, that you're coming into an amazing space because we thrived in that space.
Yeah.
Because we felt like we could just ask those silly questions and get the mentoring and get our little rice and peas on the side and just eat the smelly food in the kitchen.
Yeah, literally.
You know what I mean? Like we could do all of that. And I think I was excited. Like I was like, you won't believe what you can have here. It's everything.
No,
like I was
but
so
it's
happy.
true, 'cause I did definitely come from that mentality
Yeah.
of I work, I stay to myself, and I go home. I do not chatter with these people. Why are they asking me for my social media pages? I do not associate with people in work.
Yeah.
But literally, like working with you guys, it was
You
amazing.
could be yourself. You didn't have to hide your
literally, I could
talents.
be myself.
Yeah.
I could like sing because I would just naturally just be singing, and sometimes I won't even be aware that I'll be singing, and people will be like, oh, you have such a lovely voice. Like people just have good good vibes, and I'll meet like other people who are creative, and I've been to one of your like events. Like people don't understand that people that work in law, you're not all boring, you're not all like like people have interests outside of work. People love music, they love acting, they love going to watch plays and they love cooking, like there's so many different aspects. And like I definitely feel like I had a family with you guys, and that's like 7 years ago now, and we've stayed in contact. Like you're a friend for life.
Yeah, we've been through, even as an office, like we've had grief, we've had pregnancies, we've actually felt it for each other in so many different as a collective.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah, I feel like we've all really opened up. The memories that we have there, and just seeing where everybody's now gone with their lives.
I know, it's insane.
But we genuinely just feel so happy for everyone.
I feel really blessed though that I got to experience that, and for that being the place of my introduction to law, and the access that I had to the amazing lawyers that I had access to. Like I had literally started off in like the administration team, and then I'd gone to the regeneration property team. And then I got on a secondment in like property, private sector sales. I had experience in property right to buy. I got experience in litigation, civil litigation, housing. I got experience, like I helped out the childcare,
Children's.
the childcare team during COVID
Mm.
because I had capacity because property wasn't getting instructions. I shadowed some employment lawyers that call and help them with their work because I had the capacity to do so. But it's like I got exposed to so many different areas of law that I can honestly say I've never had that opportunity anywhere else, and I doubt I would ever get that opportunity again. That was a
A
once
great
in a
exposure.
lifetime, once in a lifetime opportunity, and it helped shape my career to where I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
today in my niche area of law.
And
Yeah,
friendships, because people genuinely just,
yeah,
we just connected inside work, outside of work,
yeah.
you know.
Definitely. And I feel like because I was basically one of the youngest in the
Mm-hmm.
office, so like I looked at you guys as like my big sisters. Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys really looked out for me and took care of me. Would
Mm-hmm.
like sit down, I could talk to you, ask you stuff about like
Mm-hmm.
career, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think people understand how important that is to have.
But
Because
and,
yeah,
and also modeling, because what struck me when I joined Hackney was just seeing Black women in positions of authority.
yeah,
So directors,
yeah,
you know, the former head of legal was a Black woman
mm-hmm,
for years and
yeah,
years,
mm-hmm,
and just seeing it not just starting from the bottom up, like they were already up there,
mm-hmm,
established,
yeah,
and that was something that other senior Black lawyers, even above us, were aiming to be someday and became.
yeah,
So it's just seeing it like with your own eyes,
yeah,
you're my manager, and now you're the CEO, and it can happen, and I'm seeing it in my lifetime, and we saw
yeah,
that.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? That great humility, but also that everybody had somebody that they were looking up to
yeah,
within the organization. It wasn't
mm-hmm,
outside the organization.
yeah.
So it was fulfilling in so many ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
I really cherish that time. And I feel
Mm.
like we went through a lot of changes in that department
Mm.
because, as I said, when I first came, we were a family. I used to
Mm.
love coming to
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
used to love, like, don't get me wrong, I would work and I'll get what I need to do done, but I'll come over to you
Yeah.
guys' desk and I will chitty chat and we'll have a good old catch up, and at lunch we'll laugh and we'll eat that good food. Like we had our pick of, like, we had Turkish, we had Caribbean, like we
We
was
had
in a
Hackney,
good
girl.
spot. Yeah, like we we was in we was in a
We had the
really
market.
good
We had it
spot.
all.
Oh yeah, M&S
Yeah,
in
we
the
had it
and the
all.
narrow way, and oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was
We saw the
good.
development. We saw the development of Hackney. We saw everything.
Literally,
Yeah. On the
literally.
doorsteps, the protests,
Hmm.
everything. We were in the heart of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um and yeah, it just feels a blessing to be a part of that. But I also saw like how, things change with like restructure,
Yeah.
but that made me appreciate more what I got to experience before
Hmm.
because of just how special it
Yeah, that's
was.
a moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And here we are today.
Beyonce.
True, true,
Oh my
true.
gosh, yeah. I'm really happy. I'm really happy. So yeah, that is how me and the lovely Ranette met. We met through our workplace and have now become lifelong friends. You are now stuck with me, darling.
Oh
We're
my
now gone
dear. What
nowhere.
have I done? What have I done?
What have you
Thank you, girl.
done? But yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Rich in Truth podcast. This is episode number 2. I'm so grateful that we made it here. Small milestones that we're grateful for. Yes, yes, yes. And today I have a very, very, very special guest beside me, an amazing friend and an amazing person,
Hey.
Ranette.
Hi, Tanae. Hi.
Hey, lovely. Welcome to the Rich in Truth podcast. It's
Thank
a pleasure to
you.
have you here.
Thank
How are you
you.
feeling today?
I'm feeling excited,
Me
and I
too.
can't believe I'm like the second guest on your podcast. So I'm really, really, I'm happy for you, girl. Really happy. And it's
Thank
so cool in
you.
here. I just feel
Yeah,
chilled. So it helps so much.
that's the vibe we're going for. Like
Yeah.
chilled, real talk,
That's it.
rich in truth.
Perfect.
So let's get into it.
Mhm.
Just tell us a bit about yourself, where you were born, and where you grew up.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, my name's Ranette. I was actually born in London. I was born in St Thomas's Hospital, London. And actually, shortly after I was born, we moved to Crawley outside of London. And I lived there for like 11 years of my life. And then we moved up to Sheffield. So took us clean out the cobble streets of Sheffield. And I spent my teens up there. And then I, through study and work, just slowly made my way back down south again. So I've been in London for like 20 years or more now. Yeah, some time. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that's, yeah, my journey.
And how was school life for you?
School.
Mhm.
Wow. Mixed experience. So I can say
Yeah.
growing up in Crawley with Caribbean parents. So my
Mhm.
mum and dad are from Trinidad and Guyana. So my
Yeah.
mum's Guyanese, my dad's Trini. In our neighborhood, we were the only black family. There was one other black family which we were bestie friends with.
Yeah.
Happened to be Trinidadian as well.
Mhm.
But school was, again, loads of racism. I mean, this was talking about the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So it was direct racism, as in, people throwing dog mess in your garden, calling you
Mm.
out at the medical office and just calling you all the N words and whatever,
Mm.
to school, just finding microaggressions and ways to kind of put you down. So,
Mhm.
your spelling wasn't right or you didn't do this, little things that just made you feel very small and inadequate.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say that it was at school direct racism as in feeling left out. It was more making you feel like you weren't enough.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I think because I came from a very strong black conscious family,
Mm.
really, my dad was very much like an educational social activist, I can truly
Yeah.
say, very
Mhm.
big in the black community, did a lot. So I was very exposed to a lot of injustices and just being told over and over again that I have value, that I'm a
Mhm.
beautiful, intelligent person and I
Yeah.
could do a lot of things, grounded me a lot.
Yeah.
So
I
that
love
helped
that.
me. Yeah, I don't think if I didn't have that repeated at home often, anything
Mm.
that would have happened outside of the home would have got to me a lot more. And I don't think it did penetrate, but it wouldn't have penetrated as deep as
Yeah.
it could have. So that
Mhm.
was always a good rebuff. Um, so yeah, but then moving to Sheffield now, I
Mhm.
found my experience just my eyes widened because I saw a lot more integration between black and white communities.
Mhm.
So, before we were very separate or very pocketed around
Yeah.
the area, but now we were living side by side. Interracial marriages were happening everywhere,
Yeah.
friends, everything was just, we were all together. But it was more of a class separation as
Yeah.
opposed to a race. So you had like the middle classes, the working classes. Those were the distinctions now looking back that
Mhm.
I think we had as opposed to just purely being about race. And maybe that was just me
Mhm.
growing up and being more aware of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
But that's what I experienced. Yeah, those are the major big dynamics that I experienced at school. But again, the racism in a sense of, why are you taking this route in your career? Why do you want to be this? Why don't you go down this road? That's too hard for you. That was still happening
Mm.
throughout.
Mhm.
But I just had this self-determination anyway, so it didn't really
Aw.
get to my skin, didn't stop me.
So in school, obviously, sounds like you went through a lot. Did that affect your grades, or was you just, regardless, you still got high grades, or did you have, problems in school and you persevered? Like, how was that for you?
So I can't always blame school
Mm.
for the way that my grades and everything came out. I
Yeah.
think I was somebody who was just very rigid in what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So I was very much into history, English. My imagination was just crazy. I
Yeah.
was very creative.
Mhm.
So I already knew I didn't want to know about maths. I didn't want to know about science in my mind.
Mhm.
And so that may have reflected in my grades.
Mhm.
Having said that, my grades came out pretty decent, to be honest. I did work hard. I didn't like maths. I made an effort to befriend a teacher, Mr. Price, who I absolutely hated and I was intimidated by. But every lunchtime, I'd go into his office and he would work with me on maths and get the formulas right. Because I knew that I wanted, even at school, I
Mhm.
knew that I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to be a writer.
Mhm.
And I was told this is what, it's hard to do that. And the moment someone tells me
Mhm.
I can't do something, it makes me more determined to do it.
Yeah.
So I was struggling with subjects that I didn't like because I knew that I needed to get those grades.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of it affecting my education,
Mhm.
I think it happened more in college than it did at school.
Mhm.
So getting to college now, and obviously college is the dividing line between do you get into the universities that you want to, or do you
Mhm.
not? I can explicitly remember, because I took sociology as a subject,
Mhm.
one of my teachers marking me really low for one of my predicted grades.
Mhm.
And predicted grades is what universities use, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, if you're giving me a predicted grade of like C to D, I'm not going to be getting into any of these, Russell,
Yeah.
kind of places. I'm not going to get into these red brick, as we call them back then, red brick universities.
Mhm.
So I was really harsh on him for that, because I knew what he was doing. It wasn't
Mm.
coming from a place of this is what your work is showing me. It was coming from a place of, I'm keeping you back down. And I saw that
Mm.
repeated with other lecturers as well, saying, why do you want to be a lawyer? Why don't you go down this route of, doing something else? It's a lot easier for you. And I could see the racism. I could see what they were doing. I'd already
Mhm.
been smarted up to know what their game was.
Mm.
I didn't vocalize it and say, hey, I know what you're doing. I was like, all right, quietly.
Mhm.
Okay. Worked hard and got my straight A's, and
Mm.
just made, and I was shocked. I was surprised when I got those marks. My parents were surprised when I got those marks.
Really?
Yeah, it was just like a kind of like, I didn't know that what I was capable of.
Mm.
So it was good to see that. But yeah, I think that was my experience, just persevering regardless. Yeah.
Oh, I love
Trying.
that. So, we we've discussed, you said you knew you always wanted to get into law.
Hmm.
I've worked with you. You are an amazing lawyer.
Thank you.
How did that come about? Like you getting into law and becoming a lawyer?
So I took the very traditional route, and
Yes.
to be honest, I didn't always want to be a lawyer. I
Mhm.
think I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to
Mhm.
be a journalist. I wanted just to explore
Yeah.
people's stories, including injustices. I was very much interested in people. So
Mhm.
it wasn't just, I'm going into law for money,
Mhm.
or I'm going in because I just wanted a career path that
Yeah.
was stable. I had a game plan because of, I think, my dad's very activist involvement, and particularly involved in education for
Mm.
Black people and what
Mhm.
he was doing for that. Um, I wanted to be somebody who could be a part of that healing
Mhm.
process, I suppose, for the community. And
Mhm.
so I saw law as a way to do that.
Mhm.
At my little 16-year-old age, I kind of had an idea of why I was taking it up, as
Mhm.
opposed to just the status of being a lawyer.
Mhm.
So again, just doing some kind of just back reading and saying, okay, what do I need to get in?
Mhm.
I can't combine 2 degrees. I can't do journalism and
Mhm.
law. They need you to do these subjects. So
Mhm.
I decided, okay, I've got to do a straight law degree, which is
Yeah.
what I did.
Mhm.
Not everybody takes that path. I've
Mhm.
seen now, and I wish this was around when I was making those decisions,
Mhm.
that you could take history, you could take art, then you can do a GDL and transfer over and do law later. And,
Mhm.
which is also my philosophy for life, that
Mhm.
a very linear approach to your career or anything is very boring and doesn't fulfill you as a person. And I would discourage anybody from taking a very linear route.
Mhm.
But that's the route that I thought was best and was exposed to me. So
Yeah.
I did a straight law degree, did all my kind of research around different universities that I thought I'd like to go to.
Mhm.
And I went to Nottingham Trent University, which for me, I loved Nottingham Trent University. The reputation that it had for law was very good. I think it still is very good.
Mhm.
And yeah, I genuinely loved studying law. I
Yeah.
genuinely, because I love reading already. Like I said, I was into
Yeah.
literature, I was into reading.
Mhm.
So research and stuff was just, I just loved being in the library as it was. I was such a geek. So for me, it wasn't hard to get me to read books. My problem was, and it was a
Mhm.
problem that was always coming up throughout my life,
Mhm.
was if you set me an assignment and say, you need to read these chapters,
Mhm.
I'm going to read the chapters ahead, I'm going to read the chapters behind, I'm going to
Yeah.
read everything else, because I want to know about everything else, not
Mhm.
just what you've told me. So by the time I came to doing the assignments now, I'm not ready for the assignments, because I've read everything else around, because I'm not just somebody who's trying to get by the exam. I want to
Mhm.
learn,
Yeah.
just learn. So I
Yeah.
think that was my, I suppose, weakness. I wasn't smart in just doing what I needed to do to get the assignments. I got through, I got the
Yeah.
exams, I passed, but I think I wanted to embrace everything. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes for me, maybe university was limiting in that,
Mhm.
or education was limiting in that, in
Yeah.
which you couldn't just sit back and just pause
Mm.
and just take stuff in and just say, well, why is that like that? Like, why did they make
Mm.
that decision? And just, it was like, okay, on to the next assignment. So I just had to get used to that pace of life,
Mhm.
doing law for 3 years and
Yeah.
just doing what I had to do.
Mhm.
And in a sense, parking when I would be able to have a career or mental break so
Mhm.
I could just sit back and think, okay, what have I just been learning? How does that fit into this world? Because it was
Yeah.
important for me it wasn't just a career path to get money, to get the house, to get the whatever. This was life changing for me. This was changing my ideology, how I viewed everything. So
Yeah.
I wanted to absorb it all.
Mhm.
So I just had to be smart and just get on with it. And yeah, got through the degree. And then from the degree, you want me to go through my whole career path?
What was that? Did you do a training contract after
No. So I did
you
a
did?
master's. I
Okay.
planned to take a year out. I
Yep.
planned to take a year out before doing law school.
Mhm.
But then my university started offering masters,
Mhm.
like a new masters. It was called health law. And I did really well in health law as my final module. I said, yeah, let me just take it up. Take
Mhm.
it up. Did the masters, did a
Mhm.
part-time job,
Mhm.
suspended doing the bar for another year, and then did the bar the following year. And then the rest is history. Yeah.
The rest is
Yeah.
history. So obviously
Yeah.
you do a very niche part of law, which is adult social care law.
Mm.
And that's not really on any curriculum. So how did you fall
Mm.
into that? And I said it's very niche. So like, how is it? It's a very stressful environment. So
You
I want
know
you to
about
let
that.
these, yeah, I want you to let everyone know. Yeah. So just basically start off how you got into it, and then how you find it, and what you love about it.
So I think I started off as somebody who, and I do think it was divine intervention,
Mhm.
just was really interested in mental health.
Mhm.
So I think, again, like I said, I started in my final year doing medical law as a
Mhm.
module.
Mhm.
And for some reason, out of all the subjects that I studied, that was the one that I just understood and I just got it.
Mhm.
And I just had this compassion for just vulnerable people.
Mhm.
I just felt like, you know, I don't know why. I just felt like I could identify with that.
Mhm.
And it was revealing actually at that time because, again, you're 18. So you're learning about the world, you're learning about people around you. It was when I started studying that subject that I didn't realize that there were people very close to me who had mental illnesses.
Mhm.
And it just like, it was almost like things were falling into place. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, so that's what they were going through then when they were going through that episode. So I just had a lot of compassion for the people around me who
Mm.
had those conditions, but
Mhm.
also found themselves in detention, found themselves in places where they were being sectioned, taking medication. You start looking back at your childhood and remember people who had
Mhm.
those episodes. You think, oh, was that it? And so you have a better understanding. So again, coming from a place of I want to do right for people like that,
Mhm.
I remember going to law school and saying to one of my tutors, because we had all these modules about family law and corporate, and everybody wanted to be a commercial lawyer.
Mhm.
And I said, I want to do mental health. And she was like, you're going to go crazy if you do mental health. Why you want to do mental health for? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to do it. Like I just
Mm.
decided that's what I wanted to do. So
Mhm.
when I finished law school, I went straight in to find a law firm that did mental health.
Mhm.
I worked with them and I was so excited today. I was so excited. My role was as a mental health paralegal, right? So I went in and started visiting people in hospitals. And the way I talked to them, you think I was selling them cars? Like I was going in like that, and these are your rights. So you've got 30 days, yeah? And then after 30 days, you can go to the tribunal. And then the tribunal will then look at and see whether you need a medication. And
Mhm.
I just was so on fire, just to kind of like, I can help you. Like I
Mhm.
was so passionate about just giving them like a breath of fresh air and know that
Mhm.
somebody cares about you in here.
Mhm.
So I was really, really, I loved it. I just love people. I just think that's
Yeah.
what it is. I love people. I love knowing that I can help solve their problems. I
Mhm.
felt like, again, being a Black person in that space, that
Mm.
was always something that was acknowledged. Like,
Mm.
the nods from the nurses, even the patients, because sadly I saw a lot of Black patients, male and female, and just seeing a Black advocate, they just felt so much better just walking into
Yeah.
like a bus, walking into the tribunal, walking into their ward rounds and knowing that
Yeah.
they had somebody who could speak for them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think my heart was just really broken just hearing a lot of, especially seeing young people. Um, I just remember actually I went to one hospital in South London,
Mm.
and I met this young guy in there, and he just looked at me because I knew he'd been smoking or whatever and had an episode, and so they took him in. And he didn't know that in being taken into a place like that, and that's your first admission, that could be it for the rest of your life. It's like a revolving door. The way that they will catch you again and catch you again. And I remember he said to me in like a really innocent voice, like Ranette, like what's a delinquent? Like what does that mean? And I was just
Mm.
like, is that what they're calling you? Is that in my head? I was like, is that what they're saying to you? So I told him what one was, and I was like, gosh, man, I don't want you to take this path for your life. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I could see I was meeting people in their 70s who were basically cabbages, but had started off
When
16.
they were young,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And I just thought I've got to stop this guy from starting this path. So
Mm.
it's just you realize what you can do to interrupt somebody's life in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
and just how powerful that was. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I stuck to that field for a long time. Then took a detour off the legal path
Mm-hmm.
and worked for Mind. Um, More because I was in student debt.
Mm-hmm.
Doing law is expensive. I took on
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that debt myself, and I couldn't keep up with the payments. I was earning very little as a paralegal. I was bringing home less than £2,000 a month, and half of that was going to my rent and whatever else. And then Bank of
Mm-hmm.
England is saying, "Hey, you owe us how much? You're
Yeah.
working now, girl. So you
Yeah.
owe us this money." So I had to take a detour,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know I was going to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a job working for Mind. And they said, look, I was 25 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
24. And they said, we're looking for a project manager to set up an advocacy service.
Mm-hmm.
Got the interview, got the job. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, what do I do now? And I just did exactly what I did as a paralegal. I
Yeah.
went in the community. This is based in West London.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Fulham. I went to day centres. I went to hospitals
Mm-hmm.
and just talked to people. And
Mm-hmm.
I met people, and I built up this advocacy service where I learned about what happens to them once they come out of hospital. Because in
Mm-hmm.
hospital, hard work goes on. Lawyers are in there beating down the door because there's money and there's people. But once they're out,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a business at the end of the day, let's be
Mm.
real, as much
Yeah.
as we're helping, it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're out, nobody's really thinking about what happens to them. And that's where I was meeting them now,
Mm-hmm.
working for Mind. And they were dealing with primary health care
Mm-hmm.
as people with schizophrenia, bipolar, other conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and going to GPs and saying, I've got a headache, or I've got a pain in my stomach, or I think there's something going on. I've lost my appetite. And the GP's like, what's on your notes? Oh, you got paranoid schizophrenia. Okay. All right.
Mm.
Well, okay. Well, and just
Yeah.
parking them
Yeah.
because they're thinking you're crazy. This is just one of your illusions again. So none
Mm-hmm.
of their primary health needs were being met.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow. So people aren't listening. People aren't even believing you no more.
Yeah.
No one's taking care of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in. I don't think I singly did this,
Mm-hmm.
but advocated for double appointments for people like that
Mm-hmm.
because they needed time to tell their stories after they've said whatever didn't make sense to you in that first 10 minutes. They need another 10 minutes to actually tell you,
Mm-hmm.
this is my condition
Yeah.
and you need to examine me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody can't be there for them, like an advocate or support worker, you need to give them grace to let them get a CT scan.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a bit more time.
Yeah.
So I was just, when you meet people face to face,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to Rampton, I was going to Broadmoor, I was going to secure prisons
Mm-hmm.
and seeing women who were self-harming, but had, really complex childhood and stories. And then where do I go after I leave prison?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to me? You can't leave that kind of, it's no longer a job anymore.
Yeah.
It feels like a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pressures of work makes you feel like it reminds you it's a job. But
Mm-hmm.
and this is something my manager always used to say to me, say, Ranette, when you walk out that door, when you walk out that hospital door, they're still there,
Mm-hmm.
They still have to wake up to a nurse
Mm-hmm.
over them with their tablets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back to your bed and sleep and watch your Netflix and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. Think of,
Mm-hmm.
on those
Yeah.
days when you don't feel like pushing that deadline or getting that statement done,
Mm-hmm.
they're relying on you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is big.
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of what kept me. It's the people.
Yeah.
It's who it wasn't just a career move like that. That wasn't too long.
Girl. No, that was very informative.
Right.
And I feel like that will help a lot of people out there, because I feel like even what you were saying, like adult social care law, like it is a responsibility. It's very important. It's very niche, and there's a demand for it. There's a need for it.
Yeah.
So there could be someone out there listening that could relate to
Mm.
that and could feel like, you know what, I would love to make a difference,
Mhm.
and it could be a
Yeah.
career path for them.
Mhm.
So more about your career, because I feel like you have a really impressive catalogue. So I know you've traveled to America and you have worked with men who were on like death row.
Mhm.
So tell me about that experience, because
Mhm.
speaking to you, it seems like it was life changing. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was life changing. So if I just tell you a little bit very briefly
Yeah.
about how it all happened, because I think it's
Yeah.
important that people know how accessible it
Mhm.
is,
Yeah.
and also why I decided to go.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to have some kind of work experience in the human rights field.
Mhm.
Tried to get applications in the UK,
Mhm.
applied. Ironically, when I came back from the US, that's when I got my responses, which tells you a lot about access in the UK when it comes to
Mhm.
things like this. But yeah, I was 30 years old,
Mhm.
and it was at a point in my life where you make decisions about what's happening next. People are
Mhm.
making decisions about who they're going to spend the rest of their life with,
Mhm.
where they're going to live, careers,
Mhm.
and so on. And I was literally watching a TED talk by the guy who I then went on to work with, Brian Stevenson,
Mhm.
talking about death penalty work, talking about the beauty of being in proximity with people and
Mhm.
how you make a difference to people's lives, and how he was personally making a difference to people's lives.
Mhm.
Again, another Black lawyer who
Mhm.
was articulate, who was persuasive, who was
Mhm.
also compassionate,
Yeah.
but very smart. And I was thinking, all I said to myself was, I was at a train station and I said,
Mm.
I want to work for you. That's all I said. I watched it. I was waiting for my friend to pick me up.
Mhm.
And I called the law firm there and then,
Mm.
spoke to them on the phone,
Mhm.
and spoke to them again a week later.
Yeah.
And they were like, what's this girl from the UK interested in death penalty work? Why you want to work here for? Or what's going on? They had no
Yeah.
idea about what the UK was doing. What's the criminal justice system like?
Mm.
They were oblivious to that. Like, why us? I was
Mhm.
like, I just feel like I need to be there. I just need to experience it. What I
Mhm.
loved about Equal Justice Initiative, which is the name of the law firm or
Mhm.
nonprofit, is when I looked at the website to see the application,
Mm.
they said, we will give preference to people of color.
Mm.
And I'd never seen that before. And
Same.
again, it's for me, it was about being seen,
Mm.
because for so long I'd felt like I hadn't been seen.
Mhm.
And I thought, yeah, this is it. This is
Yeah.
them saying we're here to reach out because we know how hard it is for you.
Mhm.
So finally getting the opportunity to work for them was incredible.
Yeah.
All by itself, just getting there was incredible.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was definitely a massive culture shock, because one, it was Alabama.
Mhm.
So Alabama, already southern state, Confederate, birthplace of the Confederacy.
Mhm.
Reaching there, you have to understand the historical and political backdrop, which still exists to this
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
And I can say honestly that, having traveled to California, New York, and other places on holidays,
Mhm.
when you go to this part of America,
Mhm.
this is America for me.
Mhm.
When I see Alabama, I think this is actually the true America, not the
Mm.
touristy side that I see.
Yeah.
What I mean by Confederacy is the whole town of Montgomery, which is the capital of Alabama,
Mm.
had these statues of Robert E. Lee, who is like the father of of the Confederacy, which was the southern states who were trying to get together and form their own state
Mhm.
away from the rest of the US because they wanted to preserve slavery.
Mhm.
So he's like their big hero in that
Mhm.
town, in that
Mhm.
city.
Mhm.
But that's also the birthplace of Martin Luther King
Mhm.
and his church. So
Mhm.
you can already see the tension, right? There's a
Yeah.
tension. You've got people who are
Yeah.
waving their US flags,
Mhm.
and then you've got Black people who are there. That's also where the Montgomery bus protests were happening, boycotts were happening,
Mhm.
so much tension in this community, so much civil rights activism was happening in this community.
Mhm.
And there's still, when I was there, it still hadn't died. So even though, and this is something that I learned from working with Brian Stevenson,
Mhm.
is as much as enforced servitude, slavery had ended in
Mhm.
the 19th century, had ended around that time,
Mhm.
the narrative of racial injustice continued. So
Mm.
the ideology that you're not fully human,
Mhm.
that you're not as smart as us, you've got to work harder, you're below us, you're morally base, still existed.
Mhm.
And that was bleeding into the criminal justice system, that was bleeding into the education, how they
Mm.
viewed us. I remember when I was there, one of the main objectives of EGI was not only to help people who were on death row,
Mm.
but also to bring healing to the community.
Mm.
Which is what I loved about their work, because as much as they were lawyers who were all about criminal justice,
Mhm.
they worked in a very holistic way.
Yeah.
So they work with communities to educate them.
Mhm.
Because if you think about, if you live in a country where, like I said, people see you as less than human,
Mm.
and that's also being fed through your education,
Mm.
are you going to really see a life where you could see yourself being a lawyer or a doctor or whatever one day?
Mm.
You're going to think, this is my existence. Why
Yeah.
should I even bother try? And then you end up in a situation where you think, well, life of crime, life of poverty,
Mm.
opportunities for me don't exist, so let me choose this path because the path it's already been mapped out for me. The system
Mhm.
isn't working in my favor.
Yeah.
And so you saw a lot of people falling into that,
Mm.
and living in that,
Mhm.
fathers and sons in prison, whole generations. Imagine whole
Wow.
generations are
Yeah.
out, which means who's left to father these children? Who's left to even have children?
Mm.
If you're taking whole generations out and putting them into prison. One of the main things, I mean, I could talk about this all day, but one of
Mm.
the two main things that I was personally involved in
Mhm.
was the working with juvenile life without parole prisoners, and then also being involved in the community restoration project.
Mhm.
So with the juveniles without parole project or casework that I was doing,
Mm.
I was working with, so before 2012 or
Mhm.
up to 2005, I
Mhm.
would say, they were still executing young people. So when I say young people, so from as even as young as 13, they were still executing young people
Whoa.
for, it didn't even have to be a violent crime. Because you have what they have this rule in this part of the US, which is called more or less a principle of 3 strikes and you're out. If you
Mm.
commit 2 non-violent crimes and then you do another crime, you get a automatic life sentence. So basically, if I go and rob somebody, or not rob somebody, I go and steal something from someone,
Mm.
and I steal something from someone again, and I get caught. I'm like, look, if I do this again, I'm going to jail. So I might as well just do something violent in it. You just kind of just give up on any prospect of thinking,
Mm.
because you've got another choice in your world of
Yeah.
what else can be out there in terms of opportunities for you.
Mm.
You think this is the only life for me. If my third offense is going to take me in for life, I might as well go in hard and go in with something. So you throw yourself into this system, which
Mm.
is already there to kind of catch you out.
Mhm.
So you end up with a lot of young people who end up doing crimes,
Mhm.
who either before 2005, like I said, would end up getting executed. I think up to that stage, they'd already executed about 400,
Oh, that's
right? In
disgusting.
the southern states, not just Alabama. And then from 2005 to 2012, we had a ruling in 2012 called Miller and Alabama, if you really want to know, Miller and Alabama, where the Supreme Court said, okay, it is unconstitutional
Mhm.
to have executions, mandatory life sentences.
Go figure.
It won't be mandatory,
Yeah.
but you can still consider it. As long as you also consider their age and their capacity to change. So remember, young people were being, well, not remember, I'm telling you now, young people were being tried as adults.
Mm.
So they commit a crime and were putting straight into an adult system and given adult sentences. No regard was given for age. and no regard was given for the fact that, look, you're young, you could change, you didn't know what you're doing, you're acting on impulse. None of that was considered.
Mm.
But now you can consider that.
Mm-hmm.
You can consider it. It's not even saying you
Yeah.
rule it out.
Yeah.
So I was working on that kind of, I was gathering a lot of the data for that, but also working with the lawyers to kind of work through some of the cases, because there were loads of cases, thousands of children and young people who were still, I mean, I met a couple of them who were basically on death sentences because they were given life without parole.
Mm-hmm.
No parole means there's no opportunity for anybody
Yeah.
to consider whether you should be let out, whether you've changed and developed and learned and had any insight into your crimes. It's
Mm-hmm.
effectively a life, it's a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
9-year-olds were getting sentenced for 40 years in prison.
What?
40 to 50. It's no joke.
That is insane.
America, or I'll say Alabama, is just all by itself. And I can't say that, I can only speak for there. I can't speak for anywhere else. It was just another world where you just think, how is
Literally.
this really existing?
Mm. Oh.
Yeah. And then the second project that I was involved in was the community project.
Mm-hmm.
And that was involving, again, it's about restoration. And I was thinking about this on my way here, actually, because I was thinking about how we can translate into the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So lynching is a massive part of the American history.
Yeah.
And it's something that in our era, we all want to forget about. Nobody wants to remember what's happened. The trouble with, I suppose, the US is that obviously it was a racial terrorist attack on the Black community. Men and women were violently killed in their local community under the noses of government officials. Call them policemen, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So that was happening in our and amongst our communities not long from today, right? It's not talking too far away, which means the trauma of that was still felt in those communities. They've lost sons, they've lost brothers, they've lost dads, they've lost family members and friends, but they're still carrying the burden and the hurt of that. And they've never had any public recognition of what's actually happened.
Yeah.
They've just been told to move on. So even when I was there, it was, like I said, they had all these statues and memorials to Robert E. Lee, but we were trying to find ways to put memorials to remember our past, because to remember your past means the healing process can start. To acknowledge that something happened that was wrong means that we can move on.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to have memorials. We don't want plaques remembering slavery. We don't want plaque to say this is where people were auctioned. We're a post-racial society, you know. This is Obama days, you know. We were past that. We're, you know, Martin Luther King's speech told us, you know, we're bigger than that now.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted, they were all in denial, but we're saying, no, there are still communities that are suffering. So Brian and the team and a few of us on the project were asked to be a part of this lynching investigation, where we would go around the towns and the cities in the area and start speaking to the young people, the family members, and just find out who was lynched in this area, what were their stories, and, you know, find the local community leader, find the aunt or the librarian or whoever who held these stories, and just speak to them. And it was a 3-year project. So the first stage was like a field research. I think at the end of it, I left before, obviously it was 3 years, so I left long before it even finished. But I got the report, so I saw what they did. And what happened is they collected around 4,000 stories across the South. So Alabama, you're talking about Tennessee, you're talking about even Florida, all those places, North Carolina, at least 4,000 stories. And then they captured a lot of those stories. And then the communities in those areas, they announced, we're going to have a day where particular members of the community will come to the spot where the lynching happened. And we're going to collect the soil from that area. And we're going to actually collect it and put it into these glass tumblers and take it back to our office. We're going to have a moment where we recognize that this happened. And just that public recognition of what took place and just being seen started conversations in racial justice that needed to be had in those areas. And that's what allowed, I know now, EGI to then establish, because first it was in our office, it was like a big back wall, and slowly but surely it filled up with these um, soil jars with their names and the dates
Mhm.
of who passed, who was killed.
Mm.
Um, but slowly those were transferred to the museum that we now have, the
Mhm.
Reconciliation and Truth, if you like, museum,
Mhm.
which is part of a memorial to the history. And again, it's not romanticizing what's happened, definitely not. It's more
Mhm.
kind of it's starting the healing process of saying we need to come together. We need to recognize that the people are holding a lot of hurt and they want to move on. We want to move on. We don't want to
Mhm.
hold on to the past. We want
Mm.
to move on like you, but we need to deal with some of these scars first. So
Yeah.
so that was really life changing to be in that capacity as a lawyer,
Mm.
but also have that community impact,
Mhm.
um, and just feel like just to feel like you're seeing the difference that you're making,
Yeah.
and just seeing hope for people, because it's so easy to be so judgmental
Oh
and
yeah,
just walk
definitely.
away. Yeah.
So like, obviously, I feel like America is infamous
Mm.
of putting innocent men on death row. So like when you was down there, like have did you see any experience of that,
Mhm.
or anyone's story that like stood out to you? And yeah, just tell us about it, and were you able to like,
Mm.
intervene or, advocate for them or thing like that?
It was a hard one, because I
Yeah.
think I went in thinking, again, with that kind of freedom fighter attitude, that I'm going to
Yeah.
go in and rescue people. I remember the first day that I started
Mhm.
there was an execution in Florida for
Mhm.
one of our clients,
Mhm.
and he was mentally impaired.
Mm.
And it was like a deathly silence, because, when you just work so hard to help someone, and no matter what you've done, no matter how
Mm.
many appeal applications you make, state still says no.
Mhm.
It was that moment was like, wow, this is
Yeah,
real.
I can
What I
imagine.
could honestly say is that,
Mm.
and again, this is a learning curve for me. I went in thinking I'm going to go and free the innocent. Some people did some bad stuff.
Mm.
I was reading about murders and killings like it was a movie. Like I was hearing about stories and reading about people's cases and drafting up appeals and like thinking, wow, gosh, you kind of deserve to be in prison. In my head, I was like, but I was always
Yeah.
reminded, because one thing I love about that experience is just the way that it changed
Mm.
me. Because
Mhm.
again, even when in working through mental health,
Mhm.
I met people who were criminals, who murdered
Mm.
people following voices that were telling them to kill someone, who hurt innocent children and all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't unfamiliar with people
Mm.
who had done wrong and clearly had done wrong, but may have been mentally unwell, or maybe weren't mentally unwell. So
Mm.
people have always asked that question, how do you deal with, as a lawyer,
Mm.
defending bad people? One thing I love about EGI is they have a beautiful office
Mm.
which has a gallery of pictures,
Mhm.
and the pictures could be of activists like Frederick Douglass, or Sojourner Truth, or anybody that you remember from like Black History Month
Mhm.
is on that wall. But they had one particular prominent picture which had this phrase, and it was, "You are never as bad as the worst thing you've ever done. You are better than the worst thing you've ever done."
Mm.
And I always remember that
Mm.
whenever I met any of the prisoners,
Yeah.
um, because immediately when you hear what they've done, and many
Mm.
of them had done exactly that, they weren't
Yeah.
all innocent. They
Yeah.
had killed somebody.
Mhm.
They might have killed the police officer or whatever.
Mhm.
You are never as bad as the worst thing. You are better than the
Mm.
worst thing you've ever done. So
Yeah.
seeing the humanity in them helped me to still defend them, even when on the paper you deserve to be in prison for life.
Yeah.
So I remember working with people. Sometimes it was the smallest things, like they were in one prison where, again, I was seeing police brutality in the prison system
Mhm.
by Black prison officers. And I was
Mm.
like, what? I always thought it was the white ones that did it. Black people are doing it too. And I had to be told,
Mm.
like, yeah, because they're all a part of the same institution. It's institutional racism. This is what it does to you. This is so I that was eye opening for me, because I was
Mm.
looking for something else, and then it threw me. So that threw me first as a Black officer. who's hurting a black prisoner. What?
Mhm.
So he just wanted to be moved from one prison to another
Mhm.
one which was maybe a bit more relaxed, because their prisons were very different to the setup that we have prisons. We have prison cells. They
Mm.
have like a whole big room with like 20, 30, 40 bunk beds.
Baby, I would
It's
never want to
it
go to
was
prison in
horrible.
America.
And the way they would talk about the stuff that was happening, like, the things that would kick off, I'm like, so we did
Mm.
we did work like that.
Mhm.
We also did some work with women who were pregnant in prison.
Mhm.
So those were the cases that also stood out for me as well. Just
Yeah.
again, it was such a slow and tender process.
Mhm.
You don't go in with a sledgehammer. You go in because,
Mhm.
again, they know who you are. You're EJI or you're this public lawyer.
Mm.
They got suspicions about you. So you've got to just go in and just be just very careful.
Mhm.
Just read their stories. And again, you just draft your appeals, you make your applications, you write
Yeah.
to the governors,
Mhm.
and you do the best that you can. And I think that was the only expectation that was given
Mhm.
to us, just to do the best that you can for
Yeah.
them and just keep,
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah. So moving away from America
Hmm.
now, obviously I feel like you have very extensive background in law, like here in the UK. You've obviously worked for local authorities and you've also worked for like private firms.
Hmm.
Like how have you found like the differences between the two? So for someone that wants to get into law and they may be thinking, do I go to a local authority or do I go to private?
Mm.
Yeah, how what was your experience in that?
So my personal experience was, I'm
Yeah.
glad I did local authority work first.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a really good way to enter law,
Mhm.
because local authorities, good or bad, are sometimes under resourced because it's public funds, right?
Mhm.
It's public funds.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have the glamour and the glitz
Mhm.
of some law firm, private law firms,
Mhm.
which means there's a lot for you to get involved in
Mhm.
because they're all hands on deck.
Yeah.
So I like the benefit of working in a local authority because, you could be doing housing one day, then you're going to be dealing with adult social care, but then you might chip in and do a little bit of,
Yeah.
it could be anything. It could
Yeah.
be just, and you're interacting with clients in a very close way, but it's
Mhm.
also very close to the community.
Mhm.
But it's real law, it's real stuff. You're dealing
Yeah.
with real issues. It's still very tight deadlines. You're drafting under pressure.
Mhm.
You're dealing with a lot of defense applications. So you're always on the back foot defending. So I was involved in the contentious work.
Mm.
Obviously, there's non-contentious work as well, like
Mhm.
planning law and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think local authority, I wouldn't dismiss it. I know the attractiveness of private is the money and the
Mm.
privileges that you
Yeah.
get and working in the city, and we all love that. I love that. Who's not gonna like that?
Mm.
But I think I wouldn't dismiss anybody who's looking to get a career or just to
Mm.
kind of just start your career off and just get a feel for a variety of
Mhm.
areas. I
Yeah.
think local authority is good and you might actually like it and stay.
Mm.
But I think it's a good place to start
Yeah.
because it's the connection between just knowing how things pass through different hands, whether
Mhm.
it's, how somebody enters from the street to, you know, gets in, parking fines or whatever, or whatever it is. You just need to
Yeah.
understand for yourself as an individual how
Yeah.
your council operates. I think it's a really good opportunity.
Yeah. So you enjoy local authority. Do you enjoy private working in private law
Yeah,
firm?
cool. I
You do?
do.
Yeah.
I do. I do. Again, it's so we had professional clients when we were local authorities. We acted for managers and social workers and directors, and it's effectively the same thing.
Mhm.
So I'm working now for trusts, so hospitals, integrated care boards,
Mhm.
private hospitals, those kind of things. So
Mhm.
those are my clients.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess I'm also coming from another angle as well. So I've got
Mhm.
the appreciation of what happens on the ground level as well as what happens
Mm.
when you're on the other side and yours is more of a clinical perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm now looking at it from a clinical perspective because those
Yeah.
are my clients.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, there is the other additional kind of hurdles of, I think I moved into private because I wanted another challenge.
Yes.
I felt like I was getting, for me
Yeah.
personally, I was getting very comfortable in where I was.
Mm.
And I needed to push myself
Yeah.
intellectually to try and just specialize more and know my subject a bit deeper.
Mhm.
Like I said, I wanted to do mental health a lot more. I
Mhm.
wanted to get into more serious medical treatment cases,
Mhm.
so dealing with more, you know, one of my first cases that I had in private practice
Mhm.
was a pregnant woman who suffered from agoraphobia and couldn't leave the house, had trouble leaving the house, but she was due to give birth. Didn't want to travel in a car. How do we get her out the house so that she can get into hospital and deliver a baby? So that all of those court applications that you make to, you know, see whether she's making an informed decision about where she wanted to give birth, whether it was safe for her to give birth at home or whether she had to go into hospital.
Mhm.
How do we cope with her anxiety?
Mhm.
How do we make sure the baby is safe?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had that kind of exposure if I was working in a local authority.
Yeah.
That just tends to be, you know, private practice work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think again, I suppose let's just be honest. You know, there's
Yeah.
a lot more support around private practice. So
Mm.
ordinarily with local authority, you're doing everything. You're doing your bundles, you're doing your drafting,
Mm.
you're doing the lawyer job plus the admin
Yeah.
jobs,
Mhm.
which again mean you learn how to multitask, right?
Mhm.
But I suppose with private practice, you can just focus on the law.
Yeah.
You can just somebody else will deal with
Yeah.
the main kind of admin things, but your time recording and your targets are based around the substantive legal work that you do. So I just wanted to just do that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to focus on that, better that,
Mhm.
you know, zone in on that, and that was my main attraction, as well as, you know, the salary and everything else
Mhm.
and stuff. But that was my main focus.
So I want to ask, have you, and I'm sure you have, experienced any barriers or obstacles as a Black woman pursuing law?
Barriers in what sense?
Just any obstacles have you had to deal with racism in the corporate world, um, and just or being treated differently to your peers, or just
Yeah.
things that you think happen because you may be a woman in law or a Black woman in law, and yeah, just speak about those experiences.
I think for me,
Yeah.
this is just me personally.
Yeah.
I've always, if I've ever encountered any problem, I've always put it down to race. I've never considered it being about my gender. I don't
Mm.
know. Maybe it was my gender, but I've always
Yeah.
assumed it was race.
Yeah.
Um, and youth as well. I
Mhm.
think also being somebody at the time
Yeah.
who didn't look like, you know, the 6 foot tall white male barristers that they were used to seeing,
Mm.
you know, walking in with my 5'2" self, you know.
Girl, you sure you're 5'2"? Because you're like, because I'm 5'4" and you're a lot shorter than me.
I had to exaggerate for the podcast, you know what I mean? But you know, but yeah, I think those may have been contributing. I remember
Yeah.
going into meetings and somebody saying to me, "Oh, where did you study again?" And just telling them, "Yeah, I studied da, 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 da," but knowing exactly what the question was about.
Yeah.
Like, you're my client and
Yeah.
you're directly asking me, undermining me.
Mhm.
Um, so I have experienced that, but pushed
Mhm.
it aside. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to
You
prove anything to
don't let
you.
it get to
I
you.
don't.
Yeah.
But I do believe I did suffer at the beginning with imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And I think that's just more down to just being in my own world for a very long time and,
Yeah.
you know, going to the bar, joining Inns of Court,
Mhm.
and not being exposed to this culture where I had to wear this cloak at least 10 times of the year and have dinners with judges and sit with
Mm.
really people who didn't speak like me. And, you know, my A levels didn't matter. You know what I mean? Because I wore my A levels like a prize.
Yeah.
And then to get to a space like, and, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got to do more than this. But I think it was more the imposter syndrome of feeling
Yeah.
like I'm not familiar with this culture, but
Mm.
then over trying and overcompensating for
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
and not realizing that I was actually enough as myself.
Mhm.
So I think the racism came in, yeah, people mistaking you for something else.
Mhm.
I've heard of other people who've had experiences where they were mistaken for the cleaner or some, and I don't,
Mm.
yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not
Mm.
surprised by that at all. I can't say that's been in my experience,
Yeah.
but I think I have probably in the past had clients who, when they saw me,
Mm.
just didn't call back again, just
Wow.
didn't pursue didn't say why, but it was almost like a kind of, yeah, we know why. You know, it's just one of those. But again, I think it's that and imposter syndrome, which were
Mm.
both early years
Mhm.
stepped in. I think now people have to think twice, but do still try it.
Mhm.
Think twice about how they approach their racism, their prejudice,
Mhm.
because it's not explicit.
Mhm.
Again, going back to the US experience, it's in your
Mhm.
face. At
Yeah.
least you know where you stand. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I know you don't like me, cool. I know what the boundaries are. Here, it's not so much, um, you're in the door, we let you through the door, but what kind of work are you getting? What kind of
Mm.
cases are we going to give you? What kind of supervision are we going to give you? You know, are we going to
Yeah.
help you to grow and develop as a lawyer?
Mhm.
Or are we just happy that your face is on the brochure? It's that level of
Yeah.
racism. It's the
Mhm.
opportunities that you're given.
Mhm.
It's not in your face, you can't do this or you're stupid or dumb.
Mm.
We're gonna hold back things that could be yours and give them to somebody else. So when
Yeah.
that term comes around that people say you've got to work harder, twice as hard, I don't see it as I've got to knuckle up on because we've done that. We do work hard.
Mm.
It's more learning their system,
Mhm.
learning which we've been learning our whole lives and still have to keep learning and unlearning, learning what their next maneuver is
Mhm.
and thinking, okay, you're going this way. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to maneuver it's just the way we have to navigate the system. And it's difficult because um, you want to trust people at face value. I
Mhm.
don't go into a space expecting you to treat me differently. I
Mhm.
just I just do my best and do what I can.
Yeah.
And then it settles, the dust settles and you see where the dust lies. You're like, oh, that's how you're working. Okay.
Mm.
But I think I'm not somebody, I'm a pretty chilled person.
Yeah.
Um, so again, that whole mad or bad girl, I'm a strong person, a strong character,
Mhm.
but reputationally, I think from what people have said and clients have said, I'm pretty
Mhm.
calm. Storm could be riding and Renette's just really chilled. She keeps herself together, which again, I'm really happy that I am that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
But I
That's a
think
strength for
yeah,
sure.
it's a strength. It's a strength, and it's something that's just natural to me. It's not a passive kind of way to deal with problems. It's
Mm.
just, I suppose, just a characteristic that I have.
Yeah.
But I just think, what was I trying to relate that to? I was trying to relate that back to how I respond to
Mhm.
seeing or experiencing those kind of injustices.
Yeah.
Um, you can internalize it
Mm.
because if you don't have somebody who you can speak to and say, did I just see that? Did that really happen to me? Is that
Mm.
really? Then you do feel really isolated.
Yeah.
And if you're not already somebody who's very loud and kind of like, they don't expect it from you.
Yeah.
So that sometimes can be a difficulty if you don't already come in through the gate as being this, I'm not taking no madness from you,
Mhm.
then you've got to find your recourse of dealing with an injustice when you see it happening to yourself
Mhm.
or to somebody else. So it is difficult to navigate because um, it's like gaslighting. Racism here is a gaslighting form
Yeah.
because
Definitely.
it's not written. You can't put it in writing and say you did this. It's the indirect ways in which
Mhm.
things fall that lead to you not having that opportunity or not being told about this or
Mhm.
being excluded from that or not being pushed further like other
Yeah.
people being pushed. It's could you say it's racism, could it be something else? They
Mm.
make it so murky, but in your gut
Yeah.
what it is
Yeah.
because we've lived this experience our whole lives.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not blind to it,
Yeah.
and wherever I go, wherever I work,
Yeah.
I expect to experience it because it's just
Mm.
I expect to experience it, but in a sense, at what point do you decide I need to confront this? I
Mm.
think you need to discern that for yourself to know
Yeah.
how and when you confront it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I hear that. That's heavy. That's
Yeah.
quite heavy. Um. So, is there any advice that you would like to give to, um, say, a young black girl in particular watching that wants to pursue law? Like, is there any advice that you would give her that you wish that if you was
Yeah.
pursuing earlier, someone had told you?
I would say if your end goal is that you want to be a lawyer and you're sure that's what you want to do, even if
Mhm.
it's not your end goal, but it's something you'd like to explore,
Mhm.
do everything else and then do law. I know it
Yeah.
sounds really crazy
No. Yeah.
because
That makes sense.
it does, but I know that when I was doing law,
Mm.
there was always this mantra of you got to show your commitment to law, particularly if you're qualifying as a barrister and
Mhm.
having to show your experience of public speaking and advocacy, and you're dedicated to this field. When I took a left turn and went down the mind route,
Mm.
I felt like I was moving away from that, and I felt
Mhm.
really scared that I wouldn't be believed as being serious about my career.
Mhm.
And it actually worked out in my favor. I was out, I suppose, before I came back into law for a
Mhm.
good 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
And I really felt like, but everything that I did in that experience, working for different places, working for the Home Office, doing the internship, all of that made me a better lawyer.
Yeah.
So I would always say to someone, don't dismiss the experiences. Don't think that me working in that shop or doing something that looks nothing like a lawyer's job
Mhm.
is not going to do me any favors in your career. It's going to
Mhm.
do you wonders in your career because you could be practicing communication.
Transferable
Yeah,
skills.
transferable
Yeah.
skills. When I
They're very
meet,
important.
I,
Yeah.
you know, I work with trainees a lot, and I
Mhm.
meet other people along the way,
Mhm.
and I see myself in them because I see their shyness, and I also see them almost overcompensating and having to prove that I can be the. I'm like, you know what? Just be yourself, but
Yeah.
find work experience in unusual spaces.
Yeah.
Like if you know that you like, I don't know, you like public speaking, you like speaking, start up a podcast or
Mhm.
start something that allows you to show your communication skills in
Yeah.
some way.
Mhm.
If you love writing, back in the day, I was writing blog posts. I was doing a blog of my whole experience in the US or wherever. Start something that allows you, because it's all transferable. It's
Mhm.
all gonna make you stand out as a candidate.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, get your work experience in a law
Mhm.
firm.
Yeah.
Go to court hearings, observe hearings,
Mhm.
even write up your own kind of observations of public. They're public hearings, guys.
Yeah.
You can go to the Old Bailey
Yeah.
tomorrow
Mhm.
and see incredible cases, incredible advocacy.
Yeah.
Do a write up about it, because in this world that we live in, if you're not recording it and posting it, it didn't happen at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Literally.
So you've got to record
Yeah.
it. And I think for me, I don't want anyone to think that they've got to have a very linear.
Yeah.
If I see a CV and it's saying law school training contracts and here I am, I'm like, bruh, like, where's your life? Because
Yeah.
I'm afraid for you. I'm
Mm.
afraid for you because I'm thinking you might burn out really quickly and
Mm.
decide I want to go and take a year out or 3 years out.
Mm.
I think have a life,
Yeah.
do the things that you want to do, learn the languages, travel,
Yeah.
and then come back. Law is always going to be
Yeah,
here.
that's one thing I was gonna say. I feel like
Yeah.
law is a career with longevity
Yeah.
because it's like when I'm at work, I'm literally like always one of the youngest
Yeah.
people there. And so literally like law is not going
It's
anywhere.
not
So
going.
she's right when she says like,
Yeah.
take your time, live your life, gain life experience. For sure.
But look at
I
the people
agree.
that we've met, even working together.
I know.
Former actresses, former teachers.
Yeah.
They had whole lives and careers, nurses,
Writers.
writers,
Yeah. So
playwriters.
yeah.
And then they said, you know what, I feel like doing law.
Yeah.
And just swapped and did law.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, law is always going to be there for you.
Mhm.
There's always going to be someone who needs someone to speak for them. There's always some
Mhm.
development,
Yeah.
something that's it's always there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying treat it like a kind of end of life career. It's
Yeah.
not an end of life career at all.
Yeah.
It can be a beautiful career,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
you
Yeah.
don't know how your experience
Mhm.
working in media, for example,
Mhm.
will pull in clients, because
Mhm.
again, you could be working for some big corporate company
Mhm.
who, when they're pitching as a law firm to get more jobs and work for them, oh, didn't you work for such and such? Because that's happening for me now.
Yeah.
20 years down the line, I'm meeting people who I work with who are now helping me to get tenders for work
Mhm.
because we've got that connection.
Yeah.
So it all matches up. It's you got
Yeah.
to think client side. Think about
Mm.
client side. Who are your clients? Go work for the
Yeah.
clients.
Mhm.
Go work for those corporate companies that
Yeah.
would eventually be your clients when you are the lawyer.
Yeah.
Because it will help you to then know, I know your system. I know what's really going on.
Yeah.
You can be honest with me because I worked for you at one stage.
Yeah.
It just helps. And yeah, it just brings life to you. And yeah,
Yeah.
law is great,
Yeah.
but don't worry.
So, you're very career driven, I would say, and I feel like you've done really well for yourself.
But
And there's not a but.
where are we going?
It's not a it's not a people often say that you cannot date and like excel in your career at the same time. So, what do you think about that?
That you can't date and
And
excel.
excel in your career at the same time, because it's like they need to be like, no, you need to work, you need to focus. Obviously, like say working in
Yeah.
an area such as adult social care, that's really intense. When you have time of work, sometimes you just want to
Mm,
chill, you just want to relax, you just
mm.
need some you time, you need to recuperate. um so yeah, so what do you think? Do you think like no, you can do it? It depends on the partner. Like, let us know.
I think you can. I think you
Yeah.
can. I think you've got to approach it from different
Mm-hmm.
angles, right? So if I was thinking about the beginning of my career,
Mm-hmm.
working as a paralegal,
Yeah.
still trying to find my feet,
Yeah.
if I was dating at that stage,
Yeah.
it could have been a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he was also somebody who was finding his feet as well. So you're not putting the pressure on each other to always
Yeah.
be overly committed.
Yeah.
You schedule time to spend time together. That's with if you're in a I'm assuming
Yes.
is a healthy relationship, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about the toxic
Yeah.
ones because that's nobody needs that. But
Yeah.
assuming you're all good,
Mm-hmm.
I think then it can. But then you've also got to watch out for if you want to take some time out and go away, or you're on placements for a long time and so
Mm-hmm.
you're out of the city for a little bit, what will that do for your relationship? How are you going to feel about the fact that you won't see each other so often? Will it even stunt the opportunities that you look for? Because
Mm-hmm.
when I was in a serious relationship at the time,
Mm-hmm.
coming back from the US, actually,
Mm-hmm.
I know that it influenced a lot of my decisions because I
Mm-hmm.
stayed in a place longer because I was comfortable, I was happy, and you do
Mm-hmm.
get comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that, I
Yeah.
think. I think balancing and working hard on both things at the same time is near impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I think one gives and then one takes more prominence than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's life generally.
Yeah.
I don't think you should solely dedicate yourself to your career,
Mm-hmm.
to the um sufferance of a relationship. I
Yeah.
think we're whole people.
Yeah.
You've got to be realistic.
Yeah.
But then the same energy that you put into your career, you need
Yeah.
to bring to your relationship as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is possible to date,
Yeah.
but there might be stages, I would say, where you might have to agree together that, I need to kind of just ease off a bit.
Mm.
I've got a friend right now who's completing her training contract, and she's like, Ranette, I'm not dating right now because I can't focus. I just need to get my exams done. Like, this is so important to me, which
Mm-hmm.
it is. Like,
Yeah.
I think you just got to know the timings of it. Like, if you're in a very steady position, you're not trying to go for promotion or you haven't got exams, that's an opportunity to then date because you're not putting that pressure on yourself. I
Yeah.
know that when I was in a relationship and then he decided to get on the training contract, I was
Mm.
vexed. I was upset because I wasn't seeing him no more. He was running late for like shows that we were going to. He was trying to balance studying as well as, and I just found that so hard because I just
Mm.
thought, where's me? Where's me? But then
Yeah.
I had forgotten myself and my career because you
Yeah.
get lost in each other.
Yeah.
And
That does
again,
happen sometimes.
that
Yeah.
happens sometimes, and that's
Yeah.
not bad sometimes, but it's
Mm.
only for a time. You've
Mm.
got to watch the time because
Yes.
time
Yes.
travels fast.
Very fast,
Very
girl.
fast, eh? So so yeah, I would say no,
Mm.
but just know that it comes with its pros and cons.
Yes.
But don't be afraid to tell yourself if you're thinking, I need some time out,
Yeah.
that you're running out of time. No, give yourself that year to do your exams.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, jump back in again. So yeah, it's challenging. I wouldn't say I'm not saying it's impossible,
Yeah.
but it has its ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving away from work
Mhm.
and law, you have a passion for cooking,
Oh
and
my gosh,
girl, you
you're
can
going for
cook.
my whole life today. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it like this?
Girl. I cannot. Yeah, you have a passion for cooking, and you're a really good cook, and you really cook like really like unique dishes, but we'll touch on that later.
Okay.
But I just want to know, when did you start cooking, and like where did your love and passion for cooking like even start?
I'm a black girl with a black mum,
It's
Caribbean.
in the genes, baby.
Come
It's in the
on.
genes.
Didn't we all grow up with our mums cooking? No, but seriously, didn't we all grow up
Yeah,
with our
we
mums?
did, but we didn't all
Right.
grow up to, like go and, pursue cooking.
Okay.
So like we're like
But we all cook.
passion.
Okay, let's be real. We
Yes.
we both cook. You cook because I've had your food as well today. But I don't
A
think
little
we
something.
think it's food that is worthy of.
Mm,
We don't think like that,
yeah.
right? I think that's the only difference. I just decided to make it public. um, I think that I genuinely I started a food blog
Yeah.
with another friend who started a fashion blog. I remember we sat down in a cafe. I just said, look, and it actually happened on the back of my mum passing away.
Mhm.
So my mum passed away just before I started law school,
Mhm.
and I came back from the US as well.
Mhm.
And actually, while I was in the US, I'd started up a blog of my life. I called
Yeah.
it A Cotton State of Mind.
Oh
You
wow.
can't find it no more, but
Yeah.
it was all about,
Yeah.
life down there. But nobody was reading my criminal stories. Nobody was
Mhm.
reading about my death penalty stories. They're like, what? No one cares.
Mhm.
And then I started posting about Southern food and
Mm.
chicken and dark
Fried
dark
chicken.
meat and white meat and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, and suddenly I'm getting all this activity. I thought, oh, people like food.
Yeah.
So when I came back with my
Mhm.
friend, we set up a website and I dedicated it to my mum.
Yeah.
Because again, like you, we grow up with so much food in the house, cooking
Mhm.
every day.
Mhm.
And it was basically like a diary to my mum. It was
Mhm.
me saying to myself, I don't want to forget the recipes and the things that my mum
Mm.
has taught me.
Love
I need
that.
to record it somewhere for my
Yeah.
own self.
Yes.
Because you just forget. Because who's cooking saltfish and fritters every day? Who's doing roti every day? Not
Yeah.
me. But I just
Yeah.
didn't want to forget it. So I just
Mhm.
put it out there and it just grew. It was called Loretta's Kitchen. My
Kitchen. Yeah.
mum's middle name's Loretta.
Mhm.
And I just started it from that. And then I just, yeah, tied into my love for writing and applied to different competitions. And, recipes got published in The Guardian. And then,
Mhm.
you know, somebody would hear about the website on Evening Standard and I'd get
Mhm.
published there. And I just look for opportunities just to kind of get the word out because I
Yeah.
just liked. I'm an artist in a sense as well
Mhm.
personally, so I loved putting together the pictures and the stories and the
Yeah.
food. But just took my time and
Yeah.
just developed it and just it wasn't it was just passion really just
Yeah.
but it was always about home. It was always about memories.
Yeah.
It was for me. It
Yeah.
wasn't about anybody else. If
Yeah.
you happen to read it,
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. But it was genuinely my attempt to
Yeah.
remember the stories. My mum saying to me, "Don't put cold water in when you're cooking the oxtail because it'll make it seize up." All those little things that she's telling me about how to make the roti and
Mm.
how to prepare the samosas, like the little bits that if you're not cooking it every day,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been gone.
Yeah.
So it was purely that
Yeah.
memorial. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so
Uh,
much. No, and like obviously
mm,
you speak about like your mom and learning from her recipes
mhm.
and like loving her food. But I also feel like you have like you've definitely taken your own stance because I see you like creating stuff that I've never seen before. So it's like kind of like fusing like mum's food with like new school. So like tell us a bit about some of like your unique recipes and just kind of like is it kind of like a way to express yourself, being creative, or like just speak to us about that and tell them one of your
Mm.
meals because I just feel like it's so unique. Like I feel like
Gosh.
that is you. Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm. Um, well, I'd honestly say that it's practice as well,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of what you see online is the best versions. You don't see the mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think I just kind of take a twist on classics that we
Yeah.
know. So I remember I did like a lemon meringue pie, and I
Mm.
love lemon curd and that whole flavor. And I thought, oh, what if I tried it with pineapple instead or
Mhm.
mango instead? I think I did a pineapple one actually.
Mhm. Oh,
So
that
I
must
just
be
do,
so good. I love
yeah,
pineapple and I love
I
lemon.
just do twists on things, but I
Yeah.
also like learning about the history of
Mhm.
food as well and the
Yeah.
cultural history of the food. So
Mhm.
even as I was coming up today, I discovered a dish that they cook, which it looks like like cassava pone. The have you or sweet potato. It's like sweet potato and cassava, and they grate it and they put coconut milk and they make it into this kind of like a gluttonous bar. It's like a really
Mm.
dense, but they actually also make it in. I think it's in. the Philippines or somewhere. Like they make it in Asia somewhere. They make a very
Mm.
similar kind of
Yeah.
dish, but with cassava as well.
Mhm.
I don't know what one of my unique dishes. Oh gosh, I don't think they're unique. I've
I
made
feel like
like
you.
a guava cheese donut,
Yeah.
or I feel like I've
But
mastered
it's
the
like, where do you
patties.
see that? Where do you see like guava cheese donut? Or maybe I'm just not exposed enough because every time I see something you post, I'm like, wow,
Really?
wow. No, seriously, I'm literally like, wow.
Do you know what it is? I'm fascinated by colors and
Mm.
textures.
Yeah.
So when I'm cooking, I'm not just I moved away from posting for a while because I
Yes.
realized I was doing a lot of stuff just for the gram, and
Mm.
not because I genuinely, because somebody's got to eat that food.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing it because of food that I really loved. And so when I came
Yeah.
back, I said, I'm going to do food that I actually want to enjoy and love.
Yeah.
But I think I always think about textures. So
Mm.
I remember making this like a burrito bowl,
Mhm.
made my own burrito, and then and then I got like ackee, like whole ackee, and like a salsa of onions and peppers and stuff,
Mm.
and mixed that.
Yeah.
And then so I've got the soft crunchiness of the burrito bowl, then I've got the soft sweetness of the ackee and the onions and peppers. But then I need another crunch layer, so I
Mm.
toasted off or fried garlic. You know,
Mhm.
garlic when it's like garlic
Yeah.
chips is crunchy.
Yeah.
So, and then I think I made like a kind of like a green, seasoning mayo, whatever. So I'm combining familiar
Mm.
flavors of
Yeah.
the Caribbean, like the green seasoning,
Yeah.
like the ackee,
Yeah.
like a kind of roti,
Yeah.
and just putting it in a different package.
Yeah.
But not always looking for difference for difference sake.
Yeah.
Because I
Mhm.
think sometimes we get obsessed with just trying to do something different when
Yeah.
actually people just love the classics.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like this weekend, I'm thinking of just doing like a tamarind fish curry because I've never
Mm.
had a soury sweet curry
Yeah.
before. I know we just make the standard curries all the time,
Yeah.
but now I've tasted one. I'm like, oh, actually, I want to try making a tamarind because we love tamarind already.
Mhm.
A tamarind fish curry, and again, trying a different take on dal puri roti with it or something. But again, I'm not trying to focus on just the video
Yeah.
and doing, I want it to taste good. It's
Of
going to be in my
course.
fridge
Yeah.
on Friday. I've got to eat it at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Because what used to happen is my fridge used to get packed up with stuff that
Mm.
I just nibbled on because it was for the gram, and then it's wasted.
Yeah.
It's like, come on now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Mhm.
think, but yeah, creativity is hard to explain. It is an art form
Yeah.
because I think that's also why I haven't posted. I don't post frequently, and I don't
Mm.
think I'm not even trying to sound arrogant or anything.
Mm.
It is a real process.
Yeah.
It's not me googling up recipes and thinking, "Oh, I'll do that. I'm going to
Yeah.
copy that."
Mm.
It's truly is imagination
Yeah.
and thought, and it could be something as innocent as you're in a room and you just see something orange and it just makes you think about something else, which makes you think about, "Oh, I'm going to make this cake, plenta cake." You don't know how you reach there, but
Yeah.
it might have been triggered by the fact that you saw something in the room which triggered another thought. That's how I think.
Yeah.
So it could be something that you see, something that you're reading that
Yes.
triggers another memory,
Mhm.
and then you're creating something. Like I'm always in my notebook, in my phone,
Mm.
writing down words that are associated, and then it builds into a recipe. And
Mhm.
that might have taken me weeks to come up with. But for you just think I've just
Yeah.
decided. So it isn't. So people who are food creators in that sense, I think,
Mhm.
share that joy
Mhm.
of creating dishes.
Yeah.
But then their everyday food is so bland. Like their everyday food is just like toast and beans. Because I'm tired of seasoning.
Yeah.
You know, when you're over seasoning
Yeah.
all the time, sometimes you just want water, like just ice water,
Just
just
water.
water, and I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I enjoy it.
So obviously you, my love, I saw you was featured on BuzzFeed and you did a you did a curry
Yes,
cook off.
I have never watched it. This is the truth. I have
Girl.
never. I.
Well, I did.
No!
How was your experience recording that and tasting other people's food and judging it and just the whole experience and how it came about? Because that was such a good watch. I really hope they do like more stuff like that because it was just like
Oh,
it
they
was so
do.
interesting. It was
Yeah,
so
they do.
interested to see. Like it was really good. It was a really enjoyable watch. So
Good.
yeah,
I'm
talk to us
happy for
about it.
you.
No, it was. I was literally I was crying and I was waiting. Where's the next part? Where's the next part? Waiting for the next part. I was just laughing. It was so good to watch.
So I honestly have to say thank you for BuzzFeed because it was a great opportunity. Before that, I was not visible. You see my videos, you just see my hands. I don't show my face at all when I'm doing this stuff. Um, it was the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had. And gosh, so the process, I don't know if I can, I suppose I can talk about it. It's
Mhm.
all blind.
Yes.
So you cook 4 or 5 dishes. We did
Yep.
doubles, we did curry chicken, we did black cake. No, 3
Mhm.
black cakes. So doubles, curry chicken, black cake. And then a taxi collects the food before you at a set time because she's got to put them in
Yeah.
the areas that, and then I go in. I never meet the other people, other women,
Mhm.
and you go into studio like this and the set up, and she brings out the food and you taste it. Girl, it was the most nerve-wracking experience because again, the title is
Yes.
Trinidadian women
Yes.
mums, as it were, but Trinidadian, and I was like, oh, okay, the pressure is on. It's not just cooking for
Girl, I
like
felt the
regular
pressure through the
people.
screen,
It's not. This
baby.
is real people. I'm only half Trini here, so you know. And I think what I did again was just I just went over the top. I overcompensated. I remember cooking the curry and then checking it again and then checking it again and adding a bit more salt. And I was like, Minette, leave it alone. Leave it. I just wouldn't leave the food alone. Which is when I got home, I remember um, actually cooking the food again in my head because I always had to feel like I had to rewrite the script. I was like, I have to do this curry chicken again and get it right because I knew I did something just crazy with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was nerve wracking because I was putting so much pressure on myself
Yeah.
because I wanted to really impress them. I wanted them to know that this would be authentic
Yeah.
food.
Mhm.
But it was a really good experience. It was really fun. Yeah, it was really, really good working with BuzzFeed. It was really honestly professional. I'm really
I
glad I got picked.
I wouldn't have been able to tell though by the camera that you was nervous though, because I feel like you was a natural and you was good, and when you was tasting the food, you was tasting the flavors, and I feel like you was being really nice because I was looking at like watching some of the other contestants and they were like harsh, they were like
If I knew.
good.
Hindsight, No, I always planned, I always said to myself that I
Yes,
would go in
yes,
and be good
yes,
and mark high. I
yeah.
said to myself, regardless, I wasn't gonna, because what I did is I've watched the other episodes and I
Mm.
looked at the comments, if I'm honest,
Mhm.
of other people, and I noticed that people were saying, oh, I'm so glad to see people going in there and affirming other people and not tearing people down
Yeah.
and giving honest. And I thought, you know what, I wanna, this
But
is
I still feel like honesty is the best policy. So if it wasn't up to scratch, you should give it the true
I
score.
kind of did give some. I think I
Yeah.
did give some kind of shady comments, but I didn't go in. I
Yeah.
mean, the advice that I was given was
Mm.
just act like you're in a restaurant and you're getting food. How would you normally rate it? And I think I did give some feedback, like
Mhm.
constructively,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
but I
Very
didn't.
nice
But I
though.
didn't want to be
Yeah.
rude. I just think it's just unnecessarily to be rude.
You are a classy lady.
Classy girl, you gotta
Classy
be
lady. I have a lot
classy.
to learn from
And
you.
like, and this is on, my grandchildren will be looking at this and thinking,
Yeah.
is that you? See. So I think for me, I just wanted to make sure that I left,
Yeah.
left it in a positive way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just all fun.
Yeah.
It's all good
Would you ever
fun.
do anything like that again?
Competition wise,
Yeah.
yes. And I've learnt my lesson now to
Yes.
leave the pot alone.
Leave
Leave
it
it, don't touch
alone.
it, don't touch it, let it do its thing and leave it alone. If I did it again,
Yeah.
then just chill and just let it be. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've worked with BuzzFeed. You've also worked with British Airways. I mean, I feel like I literally have a superstar on my show right now because it's just that I'm just listing like all your accomplishments, and this isn't even like half of them. But how was that? Like, that's a really, big achievement. We've spoke about where you've come from, where you've grown up, going from Sheffield to London, and now you're working. You've worked with British Airways. Like, how do you feel? And yeah, speak to us about that.
So again, that wasn't me approaching British
Why
Airways.
are you
Make
getting
it
so
sound like I just went up and they just called me. Yeah, no. So that was through, that was Mob. It's online platform that
Yes.
platforms food.
Yeah.
For basically like the Gen Z. Everybody knows Mob. So that so yeah, they do a lot of cooking. So they had I suppose a project manager
Mm-hmm.
who came up with an idea to showcase small island food
Mhm.
and approached British Airways themselves
Yeah.
and said, look, we've got a project to highlight small islands like St. Lucia and Tobago and places. They said, yeah, let's work, find your people. So I was contacted.
Yeah.
Someone slid into my DMs and just contacted me. Not someone, I know who she is.
Yes.
And asked me if I'd be interested
Shout
in
out you.
working. Shout out you. She knows who she is. And I didn't believe it at first. I was like,
Am
I
I
had to check
being
out. I had to check
scammed?
out, Google the girl and say, oh, she's real. But yeah, it was so interesting
Yeah.
because we're working with British Airways and then the Tobago Tourist Board.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we went back and forth with different recipes
Yeah.
and agreed on cocoa tea.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, went ahead with the cocoa tea, which was good because the other recipes, from what I remember, were all savory.
Okay.
And people were doing their own takes. Some were doing like a Scotch bonnet chili jam, which was great.
Ooh.
I think we had another chef who did like a Bajan mac and cheese. And somebody else did, which I absolutely love, saltfish and dumplings.
Oh,
And
yes, baby.
I just love that.
Give me
It's
that
just
all
like,
day.
is every day. Like that is such home food. So having something sweet was
Yeah.
like a nice contrast. So like, eventually we found the one. But that was so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like mob people, their energy is just so fresh.
Yeah.
Energy is great.
Mm-hmm.
And again, learning off the back of BuzzFeed, because that was only a few months before,
Yeah.
just how to present on a screen again.
Yeah.
It was really good just to kind of work with them. And again, because I was in the practice of doing my own filming,
Yeah.
we gelled because we know how to find angles. We know what angles will fit right for, what would be the captured, the capturing scene that you want from this side of
Yeah.
grating the cocoa, or what would be the angle that you'd want once you served it up. And
Yeah.
it was easy working with them and just insightful. And they've got an amazing equipped kitchen.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was in my paradise there, so
I
it was
love
fun.
that.
It was good. And it was good to also, again, attaching to the culture,
Yeah.
my heritage and so on. That was really important.
I love
It was
that.
good stuff.
Well, I feel like we've had like such an insightful conversation here.
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to wrap up this segment and go into a dilemma.
Oh, okay. Not my dilemma of my life.
No, what? Girl.
Go on.
So we've just had a quick break, guys, but we are back. I know I said I wanted to go into a dilemma, but before I go into a dilemma, I forgot to ask you, which country, in your opinion, has the best cuisine?
Ooh, the best
Ooh.
cuisine.
Yeah.
Ooh, right now,
Yeah.
I like Korean food.
Really?
I am really into Korean food. Yeah.
Like what?
Like bibimbaps.
What is that?
That's like what we had. We had last night with the kimchi, the rice.
Oh, the chicken.
And the
the
egg.
rice. Oh, that was
and-
so good.
Yeah.
Is that Korean?
That's Korean food mainly.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
good. And it
So I
tasted
like-
even better today.
I just love all of the, gochujang sauces. Because it's just a different type of sweet, sour,
Yeah.
spicy taste. I'm
Yeah.
into that right now.
I love that. I love the spice in it. They had a lot of
Different
spice in it, and I love
spices.
that.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at now. It could change next week, but it's what I'm feeling.
And any like restaurant recommendations that you can give us with that good food? Because baby, I love to eat.
Okay, so if we talk about Korean, I don't know the name of it, but if you go to Holborn Station,
Yep.
and you take a left, and
Yeah.
it's your first restaurant on the left, that's
Yeah.
the Korean restaurant that I always go to.
Mm-hmm.
They have amazing, like it comes out in a sizzling clay pot,
Ooh.
and they have other things as well, but that they have the best bibimbap for me.
Yeah.
And just in general, restaurants that
Yeah.
are really good.
Yeah.
Rambutan in Borough Market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a Sri Lankan restaurant.
I've never had Sri Lankan food.
Incredible food. And if you get to sit on the counter and see them create the rotis and the curries, what I had, that was a really nice curry. And I was really surprised at how it was a fish curry. It was a fish curry
Ooh.
which had coconut. It was nothing like a green curry, nothing like that, but it had coconut in it. Beautiful fish curry. Had that with the rustic rotis. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rambutan is my favorite restaurant right
That
now.
sounds so exotic.
So yeah, actually I changed it. Not Korean, Sri Lankan food. I've done Korean's done.
Girl.
Done with the double fried chicken. It's Sri Lankan.
I've never tried Sri Lankan food, so we've got to go one time
Yes,
for
decent.
sure.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay, so on to the dilemma. So there was literally like a big storm on social media the other day, because a guy called Taser bought his female friend some shoes. I believe they were heels. So it's like the discussion was, well, can a male buy his female friend
And she's just a
those type
female
of gifts
friend.
and she has a boyfriend?
Ah.
Mm. What do you think?
Did she let him know that that was a gift that she was looking for, or was it like a surprise? I'm buying you
I think he
something.
literally, no, yeah, he
It's
literally
not
got
like
it
she
for her
was
because she
hinting,
was like,
hinting, like
no,
I've
because
got my
she was
birthday list.
what she was like, oh my gosh, thank you and stuff like that and whatnot. So I'm assuming it was a surprise
Shoes.
and
That's a
she didn't
big
ask for it.
deal. That's a big deal. I
Mm.
suppose once the boyfriend knows that they're friends
Mm.
and he knows the nature of their relationship,
Yeah.
should he not be allowed to buy her gifts? Like, what would be an unacceptable gift in that situation? Are
But
shoes
people
really
were saying
intimate?
though that like every time she puts on those shoes, she's gonna think of him because
But
he bought the shoes for
but that's
her.
okay because it's acknowledged that they're friends.
Mm.
It's not a secret that they're friends, and it's not a
Mm.
secret that he cares about her as a friend.
Mm.
So buying her shoes,
Mm.
I mean, are these girls talking? Because if the boyfriend's if she's made it very clear that
Mm.
this guy is my friend,
Yeah.
and the boyfriend is like, cool, I know where you stand.
Yeah.
The boyfriend, seeing her wear these shoes, so she wears them on a date that she goes out with her boyfriend. I might
Yeah.
feel a different way about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if he's very secure in himself,
Yeah.
you're making my girl look nice, and he's okay with the friendship. I don't see that being a
So
problem.
it's about kind of the man being secure in himself because I feel like if we
Well,
flipped
secure
it,
in the friendship,
yeah,
because forget the shoes. Shoes is one thing.
yeah,
But if he's already thinking this guy is trying to move on my girl
mm,
and now he's bought her shoes,
mm,
then that's like confirmation that like, that's it. That's it. But if he knows, like sincerely knows, and she's been very transparent and he
mm,
respects, like he genuinely respects their friendship,
yeah,
then I don't think shoes should be the deal breaker that makes him think you've gone too far. I mean, I think there are gifts that would
mm,
take things a bit too far, that are a bit more suggestive. But
like lingerie.
heels, yeah, like that's
But
telling
I
you
think heels are
something.
quite sexy though. Like you
So
wear
what? Should he
heels
wear her
when you're
flats?
going
Should
out.
he buy her some flats? Would that be okay? Like
I
some
feel like
sandals on the
I
beach?
feel like that is kind of more
Like practical.
appropriate.
Buy her some
Like
boots.
I do.
Some
No,
practical,
because I'm thinking
hard-working
like,
boots.
but as a woman, if you're in a relationship and your partner's female friends is like buying him like, some
Heels or
good
a
shoes,
handbag or
well,
a little clutch bag.
a man's not
And
gonna wear
imagine,
a.
and also maybe think about this: if the price of the shoes was
Mm.
like a,
Okay, so you think if the
so,
price matters?
so yeah, so
Mm.
if you know he spent $1 on those shoes,
A pretty
I
pretty
would be like,
penny.
mate, don't try and upstage me. Because that's another thing. Because
Yeah.
say the boyfriend bought her something which was from his heart but
Mm.
wasn't as expensive, and you went and bought her some Louboutins, just for an
Mm.
example, I'd be like,
Mm.
okay, now you're trying to offend me and making me look
Yeah.
like I haven't. So I think it depends on what the price tag is.
Yeah.
Has she communicated to him that she wants some shoes? And again, I don't know the relationship and
Mm.
how honest her boyfriend feels about her having this guy as a friend.
Yeah.
Like, is he okay with her going out on dinners with him, for example?
Mm.
You know, how did he present that gift to her? Did he say, I'm going to
Mm.
take you out for a meal and present you with these shoes? I
Mm.
don't know how safe he feels with their relationship,
Yeah.
because that would all feed into whether or not the shoes is
Yeah.
a problem. But if he's cool and he's seriously
Yeah.
secure in himself, and they're secure, and he knows where he stands with them, then it's not a problem. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like I feel like it's a bit difficult because I I hear it. If you are genuinely friends, then yeah, like it's cool. Get her the shoes, but I feel like when you're in a relationship, you need to have like boundaries. So I feel like
Shoes is a bit too far.
everyone. No, I feel like everyone should be friends. As in, like there should be like a understanding. As it's like I know my partner's female friends. Like they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's like
Mhm.
you should know your partner's if you're a man, you should know your partner's male friends, and if
Mhm.
you're a woman, you should know your partner's female
Mhm.
friends. I feel like that's very important and imperative. And I feel like as long as there's respect
Mm.
there and understanding,
Mhm.
then yeah, because there's this whole thing like, oh, men and women can't be friends. I think they can. Obviously, I'm not. Ooh, girl, you gave me a look.
Okay, good
You
look,
don't
girl.
agree?
You think they could be friend?
This is what I'm saying. Like, obviously, I feel like there's different there's
Did
different
it start
levels,
off as
because
friends, or was it an attraction and then we agreed to be friends?
that's what I'm saying. That's why I said there's different levels. Like, there's some friends that you might have had since school and nothing
Sure,
has
sure, sure.
happened.
True, true, true. I
Nothing's
have a
happened because
friend like
yeah,
that. I have friends like
I
that.
have
True,
friends like
true.
that,
Yeah.
and yeah, like they're my bro. Like, I feel like
True.
if I try to be like, hey boo, what's up? They'll be like, go
Okay.
away, you big head gal. Like, what are you
But
talking
then
about?
if I had a friend like that
Yeah.
and he bought me shoes,
Mm.
I would personally probably think
Yeah.
you don't have to do that because I've
Mm.
got somebody who's already taken care of that for me.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't think for me personally that you
Yeah.
need to go that far.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if you just got me a card, or I
Mm.
wouldn't even be bothered if you didn't get me anything because
Mm.
you're my friend and I've got a man already who's already taking care of that side of things. So
Mhm.
it yeah, what was his position? What was his
He
justification?
was just like, I think he said basically people people have dirty minds or something, and like they're literally just friends. It was her birthday, I think, and he saw the shoes. He thought they
He
were
thought of
cute,
her.
and he thought of her and he got them for her. But I don't know. For me, like, you do that with your partner. Like, you see
Mhm.
something and you think, oh, that will look good on her feet. Like,
But don't you want your friends to also look good too?
yeah,
Not want to,
but
as in
I
you're trying to
don't.
suggest that they don't look good, but you like to
Yeah.
see the like I might see an outfit in the window, I think, oh, that would look so good on my friend, and you take a picture and you send it to them, but then I don't
But have
know.
you done that? Because I've never bought something for my male friend, like, oh, that would look good, and thought or saw that and think that would look good, unless it's my
No,
man.
no,
Because I like,
no.
why am I really thinking like, oh, that would look good
Yeah, that
on you
far.
for
I
my
don't
friend?
have to
Yeah,
do
like,
that.
I'm the only person I'm doing that is for my man.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
it just depends. But one thing I always say is everyone has their own relationship dynamics. What is good and works for another person might not necessarily work for you. And that's why I say, ciao,
Stay at your business.
mind the business that pays you, okay? But I just thought it was good.
It's
It's good
good.
to discuss, only because like you can just, take what you can, like, from it,
Mm-hmm.
and see like different people's point of views. But to me, it didn't seem like anything sinister. But
No, no,
if I
no.
put myself in that position, I even if I was the one like getting gifted by one of my male friends and think like, oh, how would my boyfriend feel? It might look, even though he would trust
Mm-hmm.
me and it's innocent, it might be just like, okay, bro.
I would have to be thinking about how would he receive it if I gave this to his girl before I made
Mm,
that purchase, and not just be thinking about
mm,
her. And
exactly.
because you don't have to give the gift, it's
Mm,
you're not obliged to do any of that.
yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious to know if she wore those on a date and how he responds to that. Oh,
Well,
okay.
I'll tag him and ask him, and we
Let's
gonna
see
find
what
out.
happens. Let's see what happens.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I feel like we can wrap up
Yeah.
today's
Okay.
episode. I had so much fun chopping it up with
Thank
you.
you,
I know you was
Danae.
nervous, so I hope that you feel
I
good,
feel
because that was
good. I felt
good.
relaxed. I
I'm
felt
happy.
relaxed.
That is how
Cool.
you be on the Rich and
Thank
Truth
you.
podcast, girl, okay?
Whoop,
Because we be talking the realness. Yeah, I'm
whoop.
looking at all them cameras, okay? um Ranette, please tell them where they can find you on social media.
Oh, you definitely can find me on my Instagram page, Loretta's Kitchen. That's probably the only place you will ever find me. But I'm hoping to be bringing out some products before the end of the year. So there might be some launches. So there might be another place you can find me. But for now, Loretta's Kitchen is where you can find me on Instagram and maybe on TikTok.
Yes, so I'm gonna put her at in the description box as well, and she will be launching some products, some amazing products, and when they're out, I'll also put them in the description box. So this video will obviously be out before then, so literally save it, come back again and look and see, or follow her on social media and keep up with her updates. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Rich and Truth podcast for our second ever episode. Small milestones. We're going, we're going to keep going. And thank you so much to my
Thank
amazing,
you.
beautiful,
Thank you, Tanae. No, you
lovely
are
guests.
beautiful. You are rich in truth. You are rich in truth. Absolutely.
All right, bye
Okay.
guys. Like, comment, and
Bye.
subscribe.